I've spent more than 4 decades studying success, psychology, and the habits of the most effective people in the world. And if there is one truth I've discovered that changes everything, it is this: your life improves the moment your mind becomes clear. When your mind is cluttered with negativity, doubt, fear, and resentment, you cannot think at your highest level. But when your mind becomes clean, focused, and intentional, something powerful happens. Your decisions improve, your confidence rises, and your entire life begins to move forward. I've seen this transformation happen thousands of times. People often believe their biggest problem is money, opportunity, or education. But in reality, the greatest obstacle most people face is the toxic buildup inside their own thinking. Old disappointments, negative beliefs, mental noise, all of it quietly shaping their actions every single day. So let me ask you something important. Right now, at this moment, what thoughts are living in your mind? Are they empowering you, or are they quietly draining your energy? I want you to pause for a second and think about that. And if you're honest with yourself, share your answer in the comments below. Your awareness is the first step to change. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 powerful steps I've learned for detoxing your mind. 10 mental habits that can help you eliminate negativity, sharpen your focus, and create the clarity that successful people rely on every day. And here is something important to remember. A mental detox is not a one-time event. It's a daily discipline. Just like your body accumulates toxins if you eat poorly or stop exercising, your mind accumulates toxic thoughts if you allow negative influences to dominate your environment. But the good news is this: you have complete control over what you allow into your mind. The first step to detoxing your mind is taking full responsibility for your thoughts. I learned this lesson early in my career when I was struggling financially, working long hours, and wondering why success seemed easier for other people. One day I realized something uncomfortable but powerful. The real problem wasn't outside of me. The real problem was the story I kept repeating inside my head. Many people walk through life blaming circumstances, other people, the economy, their childhood, or bad luck. But the moment you accept full responsibility for the direction of your thinking, you take back your power. Your mind, becomes clean the moment you stop saying, "This happened to me," and start saying, "What can I do now?" Responsibility is not about blame. It's about control. When you accept responsibility, you gain the ability to change. The second step to detoxing your mind is eliminating negative input. Your brain is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you constantly feed your mind with negativity, complaining conversations, pessimistic media, criticism, and drama, those seeds begin to shape your worldview. I made a personal rule many years ago. I decided that I would be extremely selective about what I allowed into my mind. I stopped spending time with chronic complainers. I reduced exposure to negative media. And instead, I filled my environment with books, ideas, and conversations that push me forward. What you listen to matters. What you read matters. Who you spend time with matters. If you want a clean mind, you must become the gatekeeper of your mental environment. The third step to detox your mind is letting go of resentment. Resentment is one of the most destructive toxins the mind can carry. It quietly drains your emotional energy and locks your attention onto the past. I've met brilliant people who sabotage their own potential simply because they refuse to release anger towards someone who hurt them years ago. Here is a principle I want you to remember. Holding resentment does not punish the other person. It punishes you. Forgiveness does not mean approving of what happened. It simply means choosing not to carry the poison any longer. When you forgive, you free your mind. The fourth step to detox your mind is controlling your inner dialogue. All day long, a conversation is happening inside your head. Psychologists call it self-talk. And the fascinating discovery is that most of this internal dialogue runs on autopilot. If you repeatedly tell yourself, "I'm not good enough, this is too hard," or "things never work out for me," your brain begins to treat those statements as instructions. Successful people learn to interrupt negative self-talk and replace it with deliberate, constructive thinking. I often repeat simple affirmations throughout the day. Statements like, "I can do this. Every problem has a solution, and I am responsible for my future." At first, it may feel unnatural, but with repetition, your mind begins to accept these ideas as reality. And when your internal voice becomes supportive instead of critical, entire outlook changes. The fifth step to detox your mind is focusing on solutions instead of problems. Most people spend an enormous amount of time analyzing what went wrong. They replay mistakes, discuss obstacles, and relive frustrations. But this habit keeps the mind stuck in a loop of negativity. Highly effective people train themselves to ask a different question. What is the solution? Whenever something goes wrong, I immediately shift my thinking toward action. What can be done now? What is the next step forward? Your mind becomes stronger when it focuses on solutions. Problems drain energy. Solutions create momentum. And momentum is the fuel of success. Now here is something important to understand. A toxic mind is rarely the result of one major event. More often, it's the result of hundreds of small mental habits repeated over time. Complaining, worrying, comparing yourself to others, doubting your abilities. These patterns accumulate like dust inside your thinking. But the moment you become aware of them, you can begin to remove them. Every successful person I have studied eventually reaches a moment where they decide that their mental environment matters more than anything else. They realize that protecting their thinking is one of the most important responsibilities they have. Because your thoughts create your emotions. Your emotions drive your actions, and your actions determine your results. When you detox your mind, you don't just feel better, perform better. And that brings me to the sixth step to detoxing your mind. But before we continue, I want you to do something simple. Take a moment and reflect on the 5 steps we've already discussed. Which one do you think is the most difficult for you right now? Is it letting go of resentment? Eliminating negative input? Controlling your self-talk? Tell me in the comments below. I read these responses because your awareness helps you take the first step toward real change. Now, let's continue, because the next step is where many people begin to see a dramatic shift in their mental clarity. But I'll share that with you in the next part. So let me continue, because the 6th step is one of the most powerful habits I've ever practiced for detoxing the mind. The 6th step to detox your mind is practicing mental discipline through gratitude. Gratitude is not just a nice idea. It is one of the most powerful psychological tools you can use to redirect your thinking. Your brain cannot hold 2 dominant emotional states at the same time. You cannot feel deeply grateful and deeply resentful simultaneously. One emotion replaces the other. I made it a habit many years ago to begin each day by asking myself a simple question. What am I grateful for right now? Sometimes the answers are big: family, health, opportunities. Sometimes they are small: a quiet morning, a good conversation, a lesson learned from a mistake. But the act of focusing on gratitude shifts your mental chemistry. Instead of scanning the world for problems, your mind begins scanning for value. And when your mind becomes trained to recognize value, your attitude changes, your energy changes. Even your creativity increases because you are no longer trapped in negative thinking loops. The 7th step to detox your mind is protecting your attention. Your attention is one of the most valuable assets you possess, yet most people allow it to be hijacked every single day. Notifications, endless scrolling, constant noise, and information overload create a mind that is scattered and restless. A distracted mind cannot be a clear mind. Successful people understand that focus is a competitive advantage. When you control where your attention goes, you control the quality of your thinking. I started applying a simple rule. I guard my attention the way a business owner guards their most valuable investment. I ask myself, is this information helping me grow, or is it simply consuming my mental energy? When you begin to limit distractions and become intentional about where your attention flows, your mind naturally becomes calmer and more focused, and clarity begins to replace chaos. The 8th step to detox your mind is surrounding yourself with growth-oriented people. Human beings are deeply influenced by the environment around them. If you spend most of your time with people who complain, criticize, and expect the worst, their mindset eventually begins to shape yours. But when you surround yourself with people who are optimistic, goal-oriented, and focused on improvement, something remarkable happens. Their energy raises your standards. I learned early in my career that proximity matters. Conversations matter. The ideas you are exposed to matter. You don't have to eliminate people from your life harshly, but you must become intentional about increasing the amount of time you spend with individuals who inspire progress. Your environment either cleans your thinking or contaminates it. Choose wisely. The ninth step to detox your mind is setting meaningful goals. One of the most fascinating discoveries in psychology is that the human mind functions best when it is moving toward a clear objective. When people lack direction, their minds often drift toward worry, comparison, and uncertainty. But when you have a clear goal, something meaningful that pulls you forward, your mind becomes organized. Goals act like a filter. They remove distractions and focus your thinking on progress. I have always believed that writing down your goals is one of the most powerful mental exercises you can perform. When you write a goal clearly and review it regularly, you program your mind to search for opportunities, solutions, and actions that move you closer to that objective. A mind with purpose is far less vulnerable to toxic thinking. Purpose gives direction to your thoughts, and direction creates confidence. The 10th step to detox your mind is committing lifelong mental growth. Your mind is not fixed. It is constantly evolving based on what you feed it. Every book you read, every idea you explore, every skill you develop becomes part of your mental framework. One of the greatest advantages you can give yourself is becoming a lifelong student of personal development. I made a decision many years ago that I would spend at least an hour every day learning something that could improve my thinking. Sometimes it was reading. Sometimes it was listening to lectures or engaging in deep conversations with people who challenged my ideas. Over time, this daily habit compounds. Your mind becomes sharper. Your perspective expands. And the negative thinking patterns that once dominated your mind begin to fade away because they are replaced with stronger ideas. A growing mind naturally detoxes itself. Now at this point, you might be realizing something important. Detoxing your mind is not about eliminating every negative thought forever. That's not realistic. Every human being experiences doubt, frustration, and moments of discouragement. The real goal is developing the awareness and discipline to prevent those thoughts from controlling your direction. Think of your mind like a garden. If you ignore it, weeds will grow automatically. But if you tend to it carefully, removing negative influences, planting empowering ideas, and nurturing positive habits, the garden becomes strong and productive. Your mental environment determines the quality of your life experience. And once you truly understand this principle, you begin to treat your thinking with far greater care. In the next part, I want to bring all of these ideas together and share how you can turn these 10 steps into a daily mental detox routine that strengthens your clarity, confidence, and long-term success. Because knowing the steps is powerful, but living them consistently is what truly transforms your life. So in the final part, I'll show you how to make these principles part of your everyday thinking. Now let's bring everything together, because understanding these 10 steps is powerful. But transformation only happens when these ideas become part of your daily mental habits. The third part of detoxing your mind is turning these principles into a consistent routine. One of the biggest mistakes people make in personal development is treating it like an occasional activity. They watch a motivational video, feel inspired for a moment, and then return to the same thinking patterns that produce their old results. Real change doesn't work that way. Mental clarity is built through repetition. The same way physical fitness requires consistent exercise, mental fitness requires daily discipline. Over the years, I developed a simple personal routine for keeping my mind clear, focused, and productive. It's not complicated, but it is intentional. Every morning, before the noise of the world begins competing for my attention, I spend time directing my thinking. I start by reviewing my goals. This habit alone can dramatically detox your mind. When you read your goals first thing in the morning, you immediately give your brain direction. Instead of drifting into worry or distraction, your mind begins focusing on progress. Your brain is incredibly powerful at solving problems when it knows what it's aiming for. So I read my goals slowly, deliberately, and I asked myself a simple question. What is one action I can take today that moves me closer, to this objective? That single question transforms your thinking from passive to proactive. Next, I spend a few minutes practicing gratitude. Remember, gratitude shifts your emotional state. It redirects your attention away from what's missing and toward what is already valuable in your life. And when your mind starts the day in a state of appreciation, you become more resilient to stress and negativity throughout the day. Then I focus on positive self-talk. Throughout the day, I consciously monitor the way I speak to myself internally. If a negative thought appears, and they do appear for everyone. I treat it like mental clutter. I don't argue with it, and I don't let it stay. I replace it immediately with a stronger thought. I can handle this. There is a solution. This challenge is making me better. Your brain listens carefully to the instructions you give it. When you consistently choose constructive self-talk, your confidence grows naturally. Another important part of mental detox is controlling the information you consume throughout the day. Think about how much information flows into the average person's mind every day. News headlines designed to trigger fear, endless online opinions, constant notifications pulling attention in every direction. If you allow all of that noise to dominate your thinking, your mind becomes overloaded. Instead, train yourself to become selective. Ask yourself a simple question before consuming information. Is this helping me grow, or is it simply filling my mind with distraction? Your mental space is valuable. Protect it. Another habit that strengthens a clean mind is reflection at the end of the day. Before I go to sleep, I take a few minutes to review the day honestly. What went well? What did I learn? What could I improve tomorrow? This simple reflection prevents negative experiences from turning into long-term mental baggage. Instead of replaying mistakes emotionally, you convert them into lessons. And lessons are valuable. Over time, this daily cycle, goals, gratitude, positive self-talk, intentional focus, and reflection, creates something remarkable. Your mind becomes calm. Your thinking becomes organized. Your decisions become clearer. And when your mind becomes clear, your confidence grows naturally because you trust your own thinking. Here's something I want you to remember. Your life is not determined by what happens to you. Your life is determined by how you interpret what happens to you. Two people can face the same challenge and experience completely different outcomes simply because their thinking patterns are different. One person allows fear and negativity to dominate their mind. The other person asks better questions, focuses on solutions, and keeps their thinking constructive. The difference between those two responses is the difference between stagnation and growth. And this is why detoxing your mind is so powerful. When you remove resentment, reduce negative input, strengthen your self-talk, focus on solutions, protect your attention, surround yourself with growth-oriented people, set meaningful goals, and commit to lifelong learning, you create a mental environment where success becomes far more likely. You begin operating from clarity rather than confusion, from purpose rather than distraction, from confidence rather than doubt. And once your thinking reaches that level, opportunities become easier to recognize because your mind is no longer clouded by negativity. Let me leave you with a powerful idea. Your mind is the control center of your life. Every achievement you will ever experience begins as a thought. Every improvement begins as a decision in your thinking. So if you truly want to change your life, start by cleaning the environment where all results begin, your mind. Now I'd like to ask you one final question. Out of the 10 steps we talked about today, which one do you believe could have the biggest impact on your life right now? Is it taking responsibility for your thoughts, letting go of resentment, strengthening your self-talk, or surrounding yourself with better influences? Write your answer in the comments below. I always enjoy seeing which ideas resonate most with people who are serious about improving their lives. And if this message helped you see your thinking in a new way, share it with someone who might need a mental reset today. Because sometimes the most powerful transformation doesn't begin with a new opportunity. It begins with a cleaner, stronger, more focused mind.